Sitting out here in Philadelphia. We're here for the Army-Navy game. Just concluded the show, had a lot of guests on. Not going to take a day off, though, from the YouTube channel. I want to bring up something in a question that was asked on the show, and it just kind of emerged about the McNairs as owners. Cal McNair, Hannah McNair as owners. And I think this is topical because the Texans are going to face the Cowboys this week. And when you talk about the most polarizing owners in sports and the most polarizing owners in the NFL, Jerry Jones is one of the first names that comes up. And a lot of people say Jerry Jones meddles, and a lot of times it's too much, which I agree with, although I do think that he's been willing to listen to some of his scouts and some other guys in the organization, and the organization has reaped the benefits, although a lot of times the talent isn't necessarily proportional to where the end of season results should be. But we were talking about the Texans, and we were talking about Nick Caserio. We were talking about Nick Caserio potentially not drafting a quarterback number one. And if Cal McNair would be the type of owner that would overrule his general manager and make the decision to draft a quarterback because of buzz, because of the business side of things, or just because maybe he thinks it's the right thing to do. And it happens a lot. You see it a lot in the NFL. You see it happen quite often. You see owners do that. And for the most part, fans don't want owners that meddle because there's a negative, connotation with it. Al Davis at the end, Jerry Jones. You don't want owners that meddle, although Jim Crane's doing a pretty good job at it. But you don't want that. But when you look at Cal McNair and you look at what his biggest mistake early on as an owner has been, and I think he would probably admit this too, his biggest mistake was not meddling enough. He gave Bill O'Brien too much wiggle room. He allowed Bill O'Brien enough rope to hang himself, and Bill O'Brien did. And Cal let it happen. Why? Who knows? Maybe because he was kind of letting the vision play out that, his father had with O'Brien. But Cal probably, if you asked him right now, and hindsight's always 20/20, he probably would have liked to have stepped in and prevented maybe a DeAndre Hopkins trade. Maybe bringing in Jack Easterby. And that's why I think, as we look at Jerry Jones, who's one extreme, and Cal McNair, who's the other extreme, I would like to see a time where maybe Cal likes to meddle a little bit. Maybe not permanently, and maybe Nick Caserio or whatever general manager eventually earns the trust of Cal to where he doesn't feel that he has to get involved. But if Cal wants to get involved and Cal wants to do something, I would be okay with it. Because I think finding that middle ground would be good for him. And I also think it's kind of encouraging that Cal McNair's biggest mistake early on as an owner is that he didn't meddle enough. Because a lot of times there are owners who meddle immediately. Dan Snyder, he meddled immediately. And those guys never find the ability not to meddle. Cal's just got to be more aggressive. Hannah, she can help him. She can be more aggressive. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you just want him to sit back and fully trust Nick Caserio. I would like to see something in between. What say you? Comment at Landry Locker on Twitter, at Landry Locker on Instagram. I'm out here in Philadelphia. We're going to be at the Army-Navy game. Be providing you with some videos throughout the week. Sports Radio 610, the Odyssey app. And the other thing about it is, at what point does the business side come into play with these decisions? I think the Texans are in a prime spot where with all these draft assets, you can miss on Bryce Young and be fine. Just like how the Jets missed on Zach Wilson. You can miss on him and be fine at this point. I think you can. as long as you draft other guys. Like the Jets aren't screwed. Their process isn't screwed up. Now, they did hire a coach that many people, including myself, think is going to be fine, but I think you can afford to swing and miss. But at what point does relevance come into play? Texans are an irrelevant franchise. And really, over the 20-year course of the franchise, they've had success, and they've had some successful times. They've had some good days, but relevance at some point has got to come into play in the business side of things. And when Cal McNair and Hannah McNair go into NRG and they see the seats empty, that's got to come into play as well when we're making these decisions and we're making these overrides. And maybe Nick Caserio's aware of that as well. Who knows? But I think Cal McNair meddling a little bit more would not be the worst thing, given everything that comes into play with making these decisions. Out here in Philadelphia, about to go to the market. Subscribe to the channel. Figgy Fig right there.
What's going on? Subscribe to the channel.
Looks warm.
Yeah.
Got some Crocs on.
Yeah.
B. Scott looks freezing his ass off, even though he's bundled up.
But representing for the city.
We're going to the market. Talk to y'all later. What do you think? Should Cal McNair and Hannah McNair meddle more, or should Nick Caserio get full trust? Let me know.